The iconic character is set to make a return to the BBC soap as he rejoins for the culmination of Nigel Bates' Paul Bradley final storyline. This week has seen Grant's long-lost son Mark Fowler Jr., Stephen Aaron Sipple, call his father to come home amid Nigel's worsening health. Nigel has been living with dementia for the last year but recently contracted pneumonia, which has worsened. Amid fears for his future, Mark has sought to bring his dad home to the square to bid one of his best friends a fond farewell. Next week begins with Grant making a spectacular re-entrance to Walford as his speeding car catches the attention of both Sam Mitchell, Kim Metcalf, and Mark, who instantly recognize Grant as the driver. Mark tells Grant that he believes his struggling uncle Phil Mitchell, Steve McFadden, needs help with his mental health, as he is still refusing to see Nigel. Grant is left stunned when he visits Nigel as he was unaware how unwell he was, and he's enraged that Phil didn't tell him sooner. Back in Walford, the reunited Mitchell siblings finally lay their cards on the table, prompting Phil to kick Sam and Mark out of number 55, causing Sam to worry that Phil is on the edge. As Nigel's health continues to worsen, Phil becomes convinced that the rest of the family don't need him. Later, Julie Bates, Karen Henthorne, decides to stop Nigel's treatment, before informing Grant of her decision, prompting an outpouring of grief from Phil. As Grant returns to number 55, he gives Phil a piece of his mind and later tries to track him down at a beach. It is then revealed that Nigel hasn't got long left, leaving Grant try and get Phil to reunite with Nigel before it's too late. Ultimately, the brothers share a heated but emotional exchange, before having to rush back to shore for some extremely emotional scenes. Back on the square, Julie and various Walford residents gather to say their goodbyes to Nigel, as he continues to hold on. Walford is bracing itself for one of the most emotionally charged returns in recent EastEnders history, as the iconic Grant Mitchell steps back onto Albert Square. Played by Ross Kemp, Grant's comeback is far from a casual visit. It is a storm of buried resentment, family fractures, and heartbreaking circumstances that pull him straight into a life-or-death emotional crisis. His return is not just about nostalgia or a shock twist. It is deeply tied to one of the soap's most devastating ongoing storylines, involving Nigel Bates and the collapsing Mitchell family dynamic. What unfolds is a powerful mix of grief, guilt, and unresolved history that forces long-separated family members back into each other's lives. A return sparked by crisis, not choice. Grant Mitchell's return is triggered by urgent family pressure, particularly from his estranged son Mark Fowler Jr., who reaches out after realizing something is seriously wrong back in Walford. Mark's decision to contact his father sets off a chain reaction that brings Grant reluctantly back into the orbit of the Mitchells. Grant has been living a quieter life away from the square, but the message he receives is impossible to ignore. Nigel Bates, longtime family friend and emotional anchor for the Mitchells, is gravely ill, and the situation is rapidly deteriorating. As Mark pushes for a reunion, the emotional weight of unfinished family business becomes impossible for Grant to escape. Nigel Bates, the heartbreaking center of the story. At the heart of Grant's return is Nigel Bates' tragic decline. Nigel's health has been worsening for some time, with dementia playing a central role in his storyline, and now his condition reaches a critical stage. For Grant, Nigel is not just a friend. He is a reminder of a different era of Walford life, one filled with loyalty, chaos, and shared history. But returning to see him in such a vulnerable state hits harder than expected. The emotional tension escalates as Grant learns just how serious Nigel's condition has become. The reality of loss, memory decline, and final goodbyes pushes him into confronting feelings he has long buried. The Mitchell brothers reunited but not healed. One of the most anticipated elements of Grant's return is his reunion with Phil Mitchell. However, this is not a warm family comeback. It is strained, fractured, and emotionally volatile. The brothers have spent years drifting apart, with unresolved anger and painful memories standing between them. When Grant returns, he is forced into tense conversations with Phil that quickly reveal just how deep the emotional wounds run. A key moment reportedly takes place away from the chaos of the square, where the brothers confront each other on the beach. What should be a moment of unity instead becomes a raw exchange of blame, regret, and unresolved grief tied to Nigel's situation. Phil's emotional state is also fragile, making every interaction heavier. Grant finds himself trying to hold together a family that is already on the edge of breaking apart. Mark Fowler Jr. The bridge between past and present. Mark Fowler Jr. becomes a surprising emotional anchor in the storyline. As Grant's son, he is the one who forces communication, acting as the bridge between generations of Mitchell and Fowler history. Their reunion is far from straightforward. It is filled with awkward silences, emotional distance, and years of missed connection. However, beneath the tension is a clear attempt at reconciliation. Mark wants his father present, not just physically but emotionally, during a crisis that could define their relationship. Father-son dynamic adds another layer of emotional complexity, as Grant must balance being a Mitchell brother and a Fowler father at the same time. Emotional fallout and explosive tension in Walford. As Grant steps back into Walford, his presence immediately disrupts the fragile balance of the square. Old rivalries resurface, unresolved arguments reignite, and the emotional atmosphere becomes increasingly volatile. Nigel's worsening condition acts as a ticking clock, forcing characters to confront issues they have avoided for years. The Mitchell family, already known for explosive confrontations and emotional chaos, finds itself pulled into a deeply human crisis where pride and anger must compete with love and regret. Grant, in particular, becomes a focal point for these tensions. He is both a returning hero figure and a reminder of past trauma, someone everyone has history with, but no one is fully ready to face. A reunion rooted in grief and reflection. What makes this return stand out is its emotional grounding. Rather than focusing purely on action or confrontation, the storyline leans heavily into grief, memory, and reconciliation. Grant's presence forces every character around him to reflect on their past choices. The Mitchell brothers must confront what they have lost. Not just Nigel, but the time they wasted as a fractured family. Nigel's storyline, in particular, adds emotional depth, as his decline becomes the catalyst that brings people back together. It is a reminder of how fragile relationships can be, and how quickly time can change everything. The emotional impact on viewers. For longtime viewers, Grant Mitchell's return is more than just a storyline twist. It is a reunion with one of EastEnders' most iconic characters during one of its most emotional arcs. The combination of family conflict, illness, and unresolved history creates a deeply layered narrative designed to hit hard emotionally. Fans can expect scenes filled with tension, heartbreak, and moments of quiet reflection that contrast with the usual explosive Mitchell drama. Final thoughts. Grant Mitchell's return is not about celebration. It is about consequences. It is about what happens when family ties are stretched across years of distance, silence, and pain. Between Nigel's heartbreaking decline, the fractured bond with Phil, and the complicated relationship with Mark, Grant is pulled into a storm of emotion that forces every character to confront who they are and what they have lost. As Walford prepares for this wave of emotional episodes, one thing is certain: Grant Mitchell's return will leave a lasting impact, not just on the square, but on everyone watching. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to EastEnders Spoilers Official.